Good morning, all my happy, contented, satisfied patriots. Are you tired of news story after news story of black criminals being made out to be heroes, where in democratic cities, police chiefs roll over and blame the cops that, well, they didn't do their job or it was somehow their fault that they shot a black criminal in the process of committing a crime? What if I told you I could tell you of a story? Nay, it's more like a fairy tale of a 100% democratic city where the police chief stands up for her officers after they shoot a black man committing a crime. Well, this isn't a fairy tale. This is real. Now, before we get on to the reality of this, let's start out with how my local newspaper, and this is where the story's coming from, Honolulu. This is from the Star Advertiser. 3 officers injured. Suspect fatally shot in Nu'uanu. Let's read, let's say, the first 3 paragraphs of the story to let you know how the Star Bulletin likes to shade this story. There are more questions than answers for the family of a South African man in Honolulu police following the violent confrontation when the alleged burglary suspect that left 1 officer hospitalized, 2 others nursing significant injuries, and the 29-year-old married father of 2 dead after police opened fire. You see from the very first paragraph, they're laying out the story about how this man was a father of 2. And they're trying to make you sympathetic towards this man. Lindani Sinali Mayani was described by his wife Lindsay Mayani as a charismatic, gentle, strong, healthy man whose deep love for her and the couple's 2 children was closely followed by a passion for his homeland and Zulu culture, where he was the nephew of a rural village king. Mayani had a smile as big as his physical size and learned to surf while living in Durban, South Africa, his wife said. I have no idea how the cops would ever decide to shoot him, Lindsay Mayani told the Honolulu Star Advertiser on Thursday, the day after her husband was killed. He's been a stay-at-home dad this year, so I could focus on my career. He plays with his kids all day. Why would they see him as a threat? He was an incredible man. Everyone loved him. Look at the build-up for this. Now, do you remember in the first paragraph when they said that 1 officer was still hospitalized and that 2 other police officers had significant injuries? Yeah, he was a gentleman, a quiet man, an incredible man. Now, let's go over to a different news source and let's see how they start out their story. Police chief says lives of officers who fatally shot 29-year-old were in jeopardy. Bravo, Susan Ballard, standing up for your troops. And yes, that's the suspect about 8 years ago in South Africa Idols singing. I'm not going to put it on, but let's go into the story now and see how this differs so widely from the Star Advertiser's story. HPD Police Chief Susan Ballard said 3 police officers tried non-lethal force first, including deploying a taser, before fatally shooting a 29-year-old suspect multiple times in Nu'uanu on Wednesday night, who was repeatedly punching them. Look how this story starts out as opposed to the Honolulu Star-Advertiser. It starts out with the incident and why the police had to use fatal force. Let's go on with this one. The man had no weapons and no criminal record. I'll talk more about that a little later on in the story, and you'll see why I have a question about that. When Ballard was asked whether the suspect reached for or grabbed one of the officer's guns, she said that is still under investigation. Well, not only is it still under investigation, I wonder why it was brought up in the first place. Maybe there was a witness, or maybe somebody has already viewed the police cams that the police officers were wearing. Ballard spoke Thursday morning defending the officers' actions and saying they all walked away from the incident with injuries. One of the police officers, the first on the scene, sustained multiple facial fractures and a concussion. He was last listed in stable condition but remains hospitalized. Yeah, the suspect really beat the crap out of this guy. This person seriously injured our officers and their lives were in jeopardy, she said. Bravo, Chief Ballard. The suspect was identified by family as Lindani Mayani. His wife said they have 2 children together and that he is originally from South Africa. They moved to the islands in January from the mainland. So he's only been in the islands a few months. And so if the Honolulu ran his name through the computer looking for a police record, well, he's only been here a few months. It doesn't mean that he's never been arrested anywhere. It's just that the Honolulu police couldn't find a record on the man immediately. And this is a more recent picture of him right here. Now, they did the right thing, and they blurred out his wife's face and the 2 children. And he looks happy enough in this picture. And you're going to wonder what went wrong with him when we go on with this story. So let's do that now. The shooting happened about 8:10 p.m. Wednesday after police officers responded to a report of a burglary in progress at a Nu'uanu home. The person who called 911 identified a man sitting in a vehicle nearby as the suspect and later told police that he had been exhibiting strange behavior. Now, let's get on to that strange behavior because you're going to wonder, what was this man on? He walked into the house and he was just erratic. Very odd behavior, Ballard said of the suspect. He sat down and took off his shoes and he was trying to talk to the people, the homeowners, but they were very upset and he eventually walked out. Let's go on just a little bit more and find out why he got shot so many times. Ballard said the first officer to arrive ordered the suspect to get on the ground. Instead, the suspect charged at the officer, punching him several times, she said. The second responding officer tried to intervene while a third officer deployed a taser. The tasered, Ballard said, didn't stop the suspect. Officer 1 then fired a single round, she said, but the suspect continued and straddled another officer, and that's when Officer 2 fired 3 rounds. This all happened in less than a minute, Chief Ballard said. The suspect was taken to an area hospital in critical condition and was later pronounced dead. The two other officers, Ballard said, sustained multiple bruises and abrasions to their arm and legs. So this man walked into a house, took off his shoes, started talking to the family. It doesn't sound like burglary as much as breaking and entering, but then, after he leaves the house, he doesn't run away. He just sits in his car until the cops arrive. The cops tell him, hey, get on the ground. And he starts wailing on the cops. They tase him. So, whatever he's on, the taser doesn't work, or maybe you couldn't get through his clothes, and he gets shot once. That doesn't stop him. So, police, bang, 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 get him again. And what does our police chief do in Honolulu? Our officers done good. They went by the book. Bravo, Chief Ballard. I'm glad to see that in this widely, vastly, overwhelmingly democratic city of Honolulu that you're willing to step up for your officers and defend their actions. At least in Honolulu, black crimes really do matter.